All right. Good evening, sports fans. And my name is Mike Gibbons. I'm coming to you from lovely downtown Baltimore, Maryland, where tonight the Babe Ruth Museum is doing the sixth virtual interview that we have conducted since the outset of the pandemic. And tonight we have a real special interview for you featuring two guys who mean so much to the sports heritage of our community. Jim O'Brien, the place kicker with the Baltimore Colts, who kicked the Colts to their only Super Bowl victory back in 1971, and Scotty McGregor, who pitched a complete game shutout in Game 5 of the '83 World Series to secure the Orioles' last World Championship. So both these guys are here tonight. And aside from the fact that I think it's going to be a great interview, just listening to their stories about, those seasons and their careers with the Colts and the Orioles, we are also tonight coming to you live from the Babe Ruth Museum, where about a week from now, we're going to be opening the display you see behind me. And I hope you can see the Super Bowl V trophy that O'Brien kicked to get the win, and the '83 World Series trophy that McGregor pitched to get the win. And we're going to talk about the exhibit a little bit, which opens next week. This show features not only the Super Bowl V trophy and World Series trophy, maybe the only place in America where you can see both side by side, because most pro teams have their trophies in cases on their complexes. But we are in a unique position to have these trophies here with us as part of our collection. That Jim and Scott have helped us to create a very unique and wonderful limited edition poster featuring the two trophies. And they have signed they have signed 200 limited edition copies of these. And you see on the screen, Katie has the information on how you can order these posters signed by Jim and Scott, and we can get those out to you quickly. Be great holiday gifts, but also just great keepsakes. I'm going to get mine, and it helps us to remember what these fellows did, what those teams meant to our city. So anyway, let me continue on here for a little bit. The display features 17 local champions, either athletes or teams that have brought home champions to Baltimore and or the state of Maryland. And I guarantee that you will see not a greater array of sports memorabilia than what is behind me and stretches this way and that way. So we've got terrific items here, and you're welcome to come down and see them. The museum is open. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, and we'll stay that way through September. After that, October through March, we'll be open Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. Come on down, take a look, and see this great new exhibit, plus the Babe Ruth Birthplace Museum. And now I want to move along with our interview with Scott McGregor and Jim O'Brien. Now, guys, you have some things in common. First of all, you are iconic sports figures in our sports culture here. The things that you've done here are just amazing, and is the reason that you're here with us this evening. Another thing that you have in common is that you both played at Baltimore's Memorial Stadium. And as we all know, Memorial Stadium was one of the last sports venues that was a multi-sport stadium. I remember as a fan going out to watch the Orioles play in the spring and summer, and you'd be looking at a sea of green grass and wonderful stuff. And then when it hit September and through the fall and early winter, it would turn to brown and kind of dusty looking surfaces. So I wanted to ask both of you, in that transition from baseball to football, what were some of the difficulties that you experienced with trying to adjust to the surface of that field?
Well, as for me, the mound was always great. You know, they could move that off. I think the outfielders and the infield might have had a little trouble with the hops some, but Pat Santarone was such a great grounds crew guy that, that field was really wonderful to play on. But it was just late in the year when when Lenny Moore was running up the middle and tearing that thing all up. It was, the football field went from home plate to center field. So, I mean, it was just quite the job for the grounds crew. But I never had any problems with it. I tell you that much, because the mound was always beautiful.
Right, but they had to obviously take the mound down every time they played, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on something, so they could just lift it up and take it away. But Pat was, that I never had any issues with that.
Well, that's good. Jim, how about you? What was it like playing on dirt?
We used to refer to it as Astro Dirt, because it was just like playing on a hard packed tennis, like a tennis court that they play dirt on. It was just, unfortunately, it got worse and worse as the season went on. So we had some grass in September, and then we had less grass in October, and by December it was Astro Dirt. So it was pretty dusty by that time of year. Luckily, it had rained a couple of times, so it made it a little more palatable. But I got used to kicking. I guess by default I got used to kicking on AstroTurf, because it was just like it. Because in those days AstroTurf was green on top, but it was like 3 or 4 inches of asphalt underneath. So that's basically how Memorial Stadium, how the field was.
Right. I'll never forget in the '83 World Series, I'm sitting in the upper deck with my father, and we're looking down, and you can see the field markers for the football diamond or grid. Wow, that's the way that was. Another thing that you guys share in common is that both of you came into organizations that were dynasties. The Baltimore Colts in the Johnny Unitas era. He started he came under center for the opening day of 1957. He actually played some games in 56, but from 57, when he was the opening day starter, through 72, the Baltimore Colts had a record of 143 wins, 68 losses, and 5 ties, a .662 winning percentage, which tied Cleveland for the most wins in that era by a football team. So the Colts were on top. When you got there in 1970, you were a 3rd-round draft choice coming out of the University of Cincinnati. You're faced with Johnny Unitas and Earl Morrow and John Mackey and Mike Curtis and all these guys. What was that like for you?
It was a culture shock. To be honest with you, these guys they were legends, and you're actually playing football with these legends. I mean, even today, I tell people, because I say I played with the Colts in the 70s, and then they'll either, if they don't know, then I'll tell them that, I played with Johnny Unitas. And of course that brings up their memories all of a sudden come to life. And Earl Morrall and Bubba Smith and Billy Ray Smith and, Mike Curtis, Mad Dog. And, people remember those names more than mine, obviously, because those guys were there a lot longer. They played tough positions, and they were famous.
They certainly were, and the dynasty really was coming to a conclusion, because those guys we were just talking about, they were getting older. And your last season in Baltimore was 72, and that was Unitas's last year, and really that team was dismantled after that. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but it must have been an incredible experience for a rookie coming into that thing. And for you, Scott, you arrived in 1976, in June of 76, as part of a 10-player trade, 5 coming to the Orioles, that included 3 guys who ultimately went into the Orioles Hall of Fame: yourself, Tippy Martinez, Rick Dempsey. But then you've got a manager who was the Earl of Baltimore, and Hall of Famers like Palmer. Brooks Robinson is still part of the team back then. And so what was it like when you came over in 1976, with Reggie Jackson, of course, being on that team?
Yeah, you can't forget Reggie. Yeah. It was, I'll never forget. I was with the Yankees in AAA in Memphis. Bobby Cox had been my manager. It was my third year there. And about fifth inning in the game, it was June 15th, this trade deadline. He comes to me and out of the blue says, "Don't be surprised if you're traded before the night's over." I went, "Well, that was a shock right there." I go, "What?" I said, "This is my home. You're my dad, you know?" And sure enough, after the game, he called me up. He said, "You've been traded." And the next morning, I get a phone call from Hank Peters in the lobby of the hotel there in Memphis. And I was still looking for Elvis. I could never found him, but I never, and he introduced me and welcomed me in. I got in the cab and, I'm starting to tear up. I'm just going, man, I just been taken away from. Then all of a sudden it dawned on me. I go, wait a minute, I got Brooks Robinson, Mark Belanger, Bobby Grich, Paul Blair. This might not be bad. This might be a good team to pitch for, So once I got here, we were welcomed in great. It was all of us, Dower and Kiko Garcia and Dave Skaggs came up, a bunch of us came up and we were all rookies there, but there was no hazing or anything like that. It was just like, here. And Earl called me in and said, "Listen, you're not going to start until it's all settled," because it was always the Red Sox, us and the Yankees. So 5 days before the season was over, I got my first start against Milwaukee, and Hank Aaron was retiring. So I have a ball over there signed by Hank and Brooks after the game. I didn't even know I had it till a couple of years ago. So I'm pitching against him. I give up a double to him down the line. I thought he might have given up his last hit. I said, "I got in the record books of my first start. That'd be great." But it was intimidating. I had that intimidation, and my other intimidations. I signed with the Yankees out of high school. So I'm 19 years old in Fort Lauderdale in spring training. They want me to throw because they want to see me. So I'm throwing to Elston Howard. Mickey Mantle stands here. Whitey Ford comes up behind me. I'm bouncing stuff all over the place. I go, Whitey goes, "You all right?" I go, "I'm all right. I'm 19. What am I doing here? You're standing here. Mickey's there, and I'm throwing to Elston Howard." He laughed. He goes, "Oh, this is great." So, I mean, you can be intimidated when you get to the big leagues or to the pros with all these icons that are around, and you just got to try and fit in.
Well, and we were talking about the dynasties and the Orioles back at the time when you came in. You were with the ball club your entire major league career, from 1976 through 1988, and for the first 10 years of that, I went back and calculated, but you guys averaged 90 wins a year for your first 10 years. And that included a strike-shortened 1981 season, when you finished second with 59 wins. But so it was remarkable. 2 first-place finishes, 5 second-place finishes out of 10 years. The Colts are running off the same thing. Under Unitas, Jim, in his years as a starter, 57 through 72, they never had a losing season. Scott, your first 10 years, no losing season, and just a remarkable run. And of course, we as fans, I think we got spoiled. Did you, Scott? Did you get spoiled? Did you think it was going to go on forever, the winning, or?
Oh yeah, because you're so used to it. Earl was gone at that point, but that was just such a nucleus, and you're right, the whole city just was spoiled. They just expected everybody to win, and you did, through osmosis. You just kept doing it, and everything went your way. And but after we won in '83, then it started falling apart a little bit. Guys started playing their options out and disappearing. But up until then, it was quite a ride.
Yeah, it really was. Now, Jim, in that 1970 season, so you get in there, and you were a third-round pick, 70th over, pretty good for a place kicker, I would think. Back in the day, the Colts they go into their first in the NFC, and you guys finished 11-1-2, or excuse me, 11-2-1, and pretty much had your way. You had the 2 losses, were, I think, one to Miami, one to Kansas City, but otherwise it was a pretty clean slate. You won 2 home victories in the 2 playoff games against Cincinnati and Oakland. How are you feeling going into the Super Bowl? Was the team confident? Were they concerned about Dallas? What do you remember about that?
I think they were concerned about their offense. They knew they had a good defense, and they just figured that I think they all wanted to make amends for the Super Bowl III loss to the Jets, and they wanted to say, we're better than that. And I think it helped a lot of, especially the older guys. We had 9 rookies on the team, and we didn't have anything to base anything on other than we had a really good season. And so we decided everybody got together and basically played their hearts out. And, that's why I guess they call it the Blunder Bowl. There was so many, first of all, it was like 100 degrees down on the AstroTurf and with the sun. And then it rained a little bit before the game, which made it nice and humid. And I think everybody just played their hearts out. They got tired and people made mistakes. And it was really a defensive battle. I mean, anytime you win 16-13, it's got to be defense. It's not a blowout and it's not offense. So it had to be defense. And I think that a lot of the defensive players got kind of put down for not being that good, when in reality, they all played so well that it kind of put the offenses, on notice. The guys really played well, and they played as hard as they could. And we were lucky enough to get a few breaks go our way. We had enough go the other way. And when we had them go our way, we took advantage of them.
Well, 11 turnovers, Blunder Bowl, the only game in which the MVP of the Super Bowl was from the losing team. So Chuck Halley won it.
Don't remind me.
But, Curtis makes the interception, and now, the clock's ticking down. Your cleat is right behind me, square-toed, that you used to kick the field goal. What was going through your mind as you're getting ready to go on the field and make that kick?
Well, what I tried to do before most kicks was just to concentrate. I had a routine I went through my mind, and, concentrate, head down, watch the ball and follow through. I did that. I wish I could do it in golf, but I did it in football. So I do that every field goal. And then this time, obviously, it was the Super Bowl. But in those days, the Super Bowl wasn't that it wasn't the Super Bowl that it is today. It was just another game for us, and it was a championship. But Earl Morrall was really steadying, and he just said, just put it through and keep your head down. And I think if I had a younger Holder, I may not have been quite as serene about it as I was in that. And so I thought about that. And then, of course, Dallas calls timeout because they're not, they have one timeout to use. And so they called timeout to give us time to think about it. And Earl came over and played the father figure some more, which was it was really, looking back on it, it was really special. And so then I basically just kept my head down and said, follow through, and then I concentrated so well on that. When you see the NFL films, they show there's no sign. They turn the sound off just before the kick and during the kick. And that's exactly how I felt. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear any stands. I didn't hear anybody on our team. I saw the ball coming. It was like complete silence. The fact that they captured that in film was remarkable. Most people don't realize that because that's how I felt. All I saw was the ball and the ground, and I kicked it, and that was it. And it was really a special moment.
Wow. And you drilled it, man. You got it all.
Actually, that would have been a 50-yarder.
But you brought up Super Bowl III, and which is one of the most historic games in NFL history. I mean, it really changed everything. It led to the merger of the two conferences, and the Colts had to be wanting to get back and get a win in Super Bowl V, and you helped them do that, so that was good. Now, Scott, same kind of thing happened with you. The Orioles go to the World Series in 1979 and against the Pirates. Just a great team, and you get up 3-1, and you won Game 3 of that series. But then you go into game 7, the Pirates come back, and here we are. You leave the game after the 8th inning, losing by a score of 2-1. So you give up 2 runs, the club can't perform, and we lose the series. So you lose game 7. Now we move to the 83 World Series. The team, like the Colts from Super Bowl III going to Super Bowl V, the Orioles want revenge. They don't want to blow it again. They're back in 83, 4 years later. And Scott, you come on to pitch the first game of the 83 World Series, and you give up 2 runs, and you lose 2-1. And so, how did you? What was going through your head? I mean, were you snake bit? I mean, what were you thinking?
No, I wasn't. No, you just, like Jimmy said, you go out there and you just want to do your best every time, And in the 83, I was the only one to lose. I lost to both the Cy Young Award winners. I lost 2-1 to Lamar Hoyt, and I lost 2-1 to Denny. And then we won 3 in a row, and I won. So I had to set it up so I could pitch the last game, so I could be the hero. You have to do those things sometimes. But, no, it was. What are you going to do? You're in the world. You're in playoffs and World Series. You're going to face some pretty good pitching, and they shut us down. We only scored 2 runs the last 3 games. Bases loaded, double play, and Richie's solo home run in the 2nd or 3rd inning in the 7th game. But you just want to be competitive and do things well. And you're right. We were up 3-1 and in 79, and we were already designing the ring, and we were, it was all done, but it didn't happen. So 83, when we won that Saturday, you could have heard a pin drop. It was like, okay, boys, this is not over. Let's go. And then Eddie decided to show up the next day and kind of took care of things and hit a couple bombs, and Dempsey hit one. And,
so you're the starter in game 5. You're up 3-1, as you just said. The team is taking nothing for granted. What was your attitude going in? Were you at all affected by the memory of the loss?
No, I think once you fortunately it's the 2nd time in the World Series and been around a while, and like Jimmy said, he goes, maybe the Super Bowl and the World Series back in our day weren't the magnificent thing that's going on, but once the game starts, it's pretty much baseball or football, and I was in a really good groove. I was pitching great, and I just had no doubts that I was going to be very competitive and give us a chance to win. And the great thing is the shutout was Joe Morgan for years was doing the ESPN with Johnny Miller, and the only reason I got a shutout was when he hit the triple off me late in the game, and he was at third base with Pete Rose coming up. One out, we're up 5-0. I go, okay, well, here's a run. Pete's going to hit it. You ain't going to strike him out. So he hits a fly ball to the left. I run back to back up for no reason. I turn around, and Joe's laying on the ground. He took off and caught his foot on the turf and flat face first on the ground. So every time I would see him when he was doing the game of the week, I'd come up behind him. Hey, Joe. Yeah, Mac. Thanks for the shutout. Thanks a lot. But so it was just a special team that for a long time we were really good, and it was very fortunate to have a second chance.
Yeah, you have Murray and Ripken, obviously, and Palmer's still hanging around. But when Ripken snared that soft liner to end the contest, that must have felt pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it did. I know what Jimmy said, the same thing. There's like that moment of silence. You're so focused because guys will laugh at me because I can't jump as high as Jimmy did. Jimmy, can you still jump that high? I mean, once you realize
you even touch the bottom of a basketball.
You went through the roof, man. I just tucked my glove under my arm, and it was like, and then Dempsey hit me, and guys used to tease me, go, "Didn't you get excited?" I go, "You're so locked in. You just you see the ball, see the glove, throw the pitch, and then it kind of hits you."
Oh. Well, great memories, and really just 2 very special championships for this town and for our the state. I always like to say that Maryland is a small state, but we got a big sports history and such a unique one. We've been very blessed around here because sports, as we know, is such an important part of the culture of the community. It's something that we all share together. Before we turn it over to audience questions, I wanted to ask a couple of other things of you guys. And Jim, you also you were the place kicker, but you also were a pass receiver, and with the Colts. And I looked it up, and you caught 14 passes in your 3 seasons here, most in 1972. But you averaged 20 yards, about 22 yards a catch. That's pretty good. Did you ever catch a pass from Unitas?
Oh yeah, yes. Well, a lot of them in practice, and I imagine I dropped some in practice too. But in a game, I can't swear to that. I'd have to look. Most of the passes I caught were from Marty Domras, and because he was the quarterback when I was actually getting to play receiver some. And at those days, we played most of the kickers in those days before me played other positions like Lou Groza,
Lou Michaels.
I'm trying to think of the other guy.
Lou Michaels.
Lou Michaels.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean that's who I replaced. They played 2 positions.
Right.
And so I've caught a lot of passes in practice, but and I imagine I could have been a better kicker if I just concentrated on that. But I kicked 10 minutes after practice every day. That's all I ever got because I was running routes with all the receivers during the practices.
Yeah. Things have changed a lot, that's for sure. Which leads me to my next question for you, and that is, what do you think of Justin Tucker? And have you ever seen anything like this with his accuracy?
These guys are so good, it's frightening. I think my averages were about, I made 56, 60% of my kicks. But then again, I only practice 10 minutes a day. So I guess I have an excuse if I want to use it. But these guys, in the 90 percentiles, and they grew up kicking, and that's all they've done is kick for the most part. Whereas we grew up playing football and then we kicked. So there was a little different emphasis on what you'd do and how you could contribute. So I just think they're amazing. These guys are just, I look at them and I never think that they're even going to miss. It just because they basically don't.
When did the transition occur when place kickers became primarily place kickers and not football players? When did that happen?
It started, actually, I was the second to last person who played 2 positions. And Danny White was a punter. And I think it was one other guy, but I was in the transition period. And it also went from straight ahead kickers just before me to starting to get into soccer kickers after me. So it was that whole area. I'd say that 68 to 74 was a big transition period for people who either played 2 positions or they just kicked. And at the same time, they were soccer kickers. The soccer style. I shouldn't say soccer kickers, but the style.
That's cool. Hey, Scotty, couple for you. We were talking before we went on the broadcast that when you were in high school out in California, your teammate was George Brett, and I asked you if you guys were any good. How did you do? Were you champions?
Oh yeah. I think we lost 3 games in 2 years, 3 years, or something like that. But yeah, we lost in the finals in '70 in Anaheim. It's the state championship. And then we won in '71. Both of them we played against Lompoc, California. They had Roy Howell, who played for the Rangers, third base, and Roy Thomas, big tall pitcher. Those 2 were the stars, and me and George were there. And yeah, we were pretty good. We won a lot of games. I still think I have all the records out there. I won 51 games and I was 51 and 3 or 4 or something like that. Mike Flanagan used to tease me. He goes, "Mac, I didn't play 51 games in 4 years in New Hampshire." I said, "Yeah, well, you can tell, But yeah, We had a lot of fun. We were really good. I won the Babe Ruth World Series when we were 15, played in Mattoon, Illinois, and we won the state championship
Wow.
in 70, and then we won the World Series in 83. So we were very fortunate.
That's terrific. You know, as both of you chat, it astonishes me your recall. The pro athletes remember everything. I don't know how you do it, but my goodness, it's hats off to you. Both of you are doing a great job. One last question, Scott. When I actually came to pick up the posters that you had signed that we're starting to market this evening to benefit the museum, I asked you how your signing arm was. And you said, "Oh, I'm fine. I said, "How's your pitching arm?" And you said, "I'm still throwing BP." So what's going on there? You're in your 60s. You're throwing batting practice. How's it feel?
If it wasn't for the pandemic, I'd have been out there probably, because I talked to Don Long before I left, because I'm like one of the only left-handed throwers that can throw good BP. And so I'm 66, but my arm doesn't bother me. And so Don said that, "Hey, listen, when we're in town, I'll call you when we're coming home and let you know when there's a left-hander throw and come to the ballpark and throw the first group." So I was going to do that, but now getting down there, it's like going through Fort Knox. They ain't getting into there now, so they're on their own. Chris Davis wanted me to throw to him. Chris even came to me one time in spring and said, "Hey, if I buy you a plane ticket and a room, will you come on the road and throw batting practice to me?" I go, "Nah, I ain't going to travel. I had enough of that. But I'll throw one. When you're at home, I'll throw to you." So I don't know. My arm didn't bother me. I guess I didn't throw hard enough to hurt it. I don't know.
So I don't know this. What's the velocity of a batting practice pitch?
Oh.
How fast do you throw it?
From up front, and you just throw good strikes, and it's an art, I guess. There's a lot of people that can't do it, but I have no problem with it, and I can throw curveballs to them if they want and all that. So.
Oh wow.
I'm a freak.
That's terrific. Well, so listen, I think I'm going to take a stop right now and turn it over to Katie. And Katie, you're going to see if we have any questions for the guys from our audience.
Scott, I know when Mike asked you about, the experience of pitching at 83 versus 879, and you kind of indicated that it was, you guys kind of took it, I guess, just like another ball game, even though, it's the World Series, but, you had to go out there. I was just kind of curious, there were a lot of the same teammates, in 83 that were there in 79. And was there any kind of team discussion talk, among yourselves, just kind of how that you could reflect on what happened in 79 that you could share with those who hadn't been through a World Series before, in order to kind of help prepare them and also, to gear yourselves up better for for that chance in 83?
Well, I think that we were in Milwaukee when we clinched the division, and in the clubhouse, Eddie stood up and said, "Boys, we're back and let's do it this time." So that was about the only meeting we had. That's about all needed to be said, and that was a really good team. We got along great. We played hard all the time. We were in, we lost in 79, 80, the Yankees. I won my 20th game on the last day of the season, and that was our 100th win, and we had already been disqualified because the Yankees won 103. And then 81 was a strike, 81 was the last day. So we were used to being there, and but we knew that, just like Jimmy, you get a second chance, and I don't think anything needed to be said. We understood what we needed to do.
Great. Jim, just one other quick thing for you. I work for the Babe Ruth Museum on and off for about 20 years, and I just remember the time that we were celebrating the Colts, and a lot of you, think you and Earl Morrill and maybe a couple of the other guys had come back down to the museum, and you finally got a chance to hold the Super Bowl trophy, which you hadn't had that chance before. And I remember you holding it almost like you were caressing and holding a baby. It seemed to be that dear to you to have that opportunity to have that piece of metal in your hand.
But your sound is cutting out badly.
Oh,
I think what you said, tell me I'm coming away. That I got to, I went to take a Super Bowl trophy. And yeah, I did. A reception for the back my second year there. Basically was it. To get to follow it like they do today.
yeah.
You see Leonard taking it to the Babe Ruth Museum, and so it was really special to be able to hold it and have some cheers.
Yeah. Well, thank you both gentlemen very much. It's been very interesting. It's great to see both of you again.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. Both you guys are resonate in life for me. But the most significant memory is Scott McGregor. When you left the Orioles, you and your wife, it was one of the most emotional sports things I've ever seen. I don't want to drum up tears, but comment on that.
Oh man, that was a rough day. I kind of knew it was coming because I was pretty horrible at that point. And things that weren't going right anymore. And we were in Minnesota before my last start. And there was an article in the paper that morning saying that the Orioles were rebuilding because that team had fallen apart. We'd lost 21 in a row. And they said that, and one of the things could be that the release of Scott McGregor. And I thought, oh, Rod, I said, do you know anything about this? He goes, no. So I went out and just gave it all I got. I pitched 5 innings, gave up like 5 runs, no home runs, got taken out. And I sat down next to Bob. I go, Bob, I think you might just watch my last game. And he said, no, man, that was the best you've thrown. I go, Bob, that's why it's my last game. That's the best I can do. Modern day, it would have been great. 5 innings, 5 runs. What the heck, But when I got home that night, I got a call from Richard Justice. And he said, what do you do tomorrow if you get released? Because I was supposed to pitch that fantastic fan night, that 51,000. I said, well, if I get released, I won't pitch. He goes, seriously? I go, you're not really supposed to be calling me. So I called up, Ron Chaparro. He got a hold of Roland. And sure enough, the next morning I got let go and went home and came back for the press conference. And once I got into I was doing great. So I got in the clubhouse and I sat in the trainer's room with Eddie and a few of the guys, and it hit me. I mean, I started weeping like a baby, and I was lurching so hard I had to go outside and sit in the stands, and my chest hurt for like a week and a half afterwards. Then I had to do the press conference, and it was a very special time, and when it's taken away from you, even though it's coming, it hurts.
Well, that's why we love you. And back then, I remember that, and I was crying too.
Yeah, I got home that night, and I'm sitting on the front step listening to the Oriole game, and this was really weird. I'm going, I'm supposed to be at the ballpark. I got it on the radio. And then a day later, my daughter was playing with one of the kids in the neighborhood, and they got talking about their parents, and one of them said, well, my parents retired. And Kate tells them, well, my dad got released. She knew what was going on.
I do. I have one for each about conversations. Jim, I'm curious as to what Earl Morrall said to you before the game-winning kick at Super Bowl V and the influence that had on you, a calming influence. And Scott, I know a lot about Earl Weaver's nuggets of pitching wisdom when he visited the mound when Jim Palmer was pitching. Did he have any for you? So whichever one wants to go first, be great. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
Do we do age before beauty?
Yeah, both.
Okay. Actually, Earl was very comforting. Because I don't think it was. I think Jimmy Orr said on the sideline before we went out onto the field. He said, even if you miss it, we're still going to be tied. So that was really confident. But it was better than some of the other guys who were over there playing. Earl was very, very soothing. He just said, just use your usual thing and just put it through. He said, It was matter of fact. He was just so, that's the way he was with everything though. He wasn't one of these excited, guys that showed a lot of emotion and stuff. He was just very down to earth and very calm and very assuring.
Nice to have.
Okay, Scott, your turn.
All right, it's my turn.
Back, right?
What?
What was the question? Earl Weaver, who's that? But Earl and I got along fine because I was pitching really good, and as long as you did well, he left you alone. Palmer and him just like to incite riots. They love that. I think they live for it. If everything was going too smooth, I think they just had to have some kind of a father-son spat. But Earl and I only one time I got his pitching information. We were in Cleveland, and all the years we were good, Cleveland was terrible. And it was the old Brown Stadium that was 80,000 seats with nobody in it. And that's an empty place to play baseball in, because they had like 40,000 season tickets, and they might have had 10,000 people there. It looked empty, and they'd always beat us up because we played down to their level for some reason. So I'm starting a game there, and I go out in the first inning, I walk the first two guys, and Andre Thornton hits a 3-run home run. Here he comes. Here comes the wisdom. I can't say any of it online. He just came out and tore me up and down and said, "Stop messing around, blankety blank." And he just don't. And he went back in. I shut him out the rest of the way. We won. He came up afterward and goes, see, stop messing around. That was his wisdom. There wasn't a lot about it. If he came out, usually you were done.
Scott and Jim. Scott, I know pretty much what you've done, but if you could both tell us kind of what you've done since your careers ended, your playing careers, that is.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, well, we know what Scott's done. He can still throw. I don't think I could kick 30 yards. No, I went into construction management, and I had about 43 years of building anything from 43-story buildings to single family houses in like 350 unit tracts. So I basically got involved in real estate and construction out in California, out by Los Angeles. And I did that up until this year. And I still may do some consulting after this pandemic ends, but only God knows that answer for sure. But I really enjoyed it because I really like to see things appear. I had a couple of sales jobs, and you sell them and you're off to something else. And with construction, you see a product and you see progress. And I really like that. And I liked doing construction management.
What got you from Cincinnati to, you played in Baltimore and Detroit. What got you out to California?
Oh, well, I moved to Minneapolis and sold sporting goods for Pony Sporting Goods. It's a line I don't think they're in existence anymore, but sold for them. And I had the 5-state area up there with Minneapolis as the hub. And funny thing is, after the Super Bowl, that year that we won the Super Bowl in April, I went down to Florida to play in the Dinosaur Invitational Tennis Tournament because I played tennis. I was number 5 in the state of Ohio in high school. So I played tennis before doing anything else. And so I went down there and I was playing there, and I walked into this literary discotheque at the Hilton, and I met a girl, and her name is Pam, and she lived in Minneapolis. So when I moved up there, I called her and we started dating, and we ended up getting married and moving to California. So I didn't want to be in construction, and her dad was my mentor, and I worked for him up in Minneapolis. And then I didn't want to. It was just too damn cold, to be honest with you. So I said, let's go to California. I know I can work year round there without freezing to death. So that's basically in a nutshell the story.
Cool.
Thank you.
All my cousins are up there in Minnesota. I used to congratulate them every year. They're the first place to freeze.
Yeah, they usually are.
Oh my God.
Where they must be up far north.
No, well, they're in St. Paul, but still it's cold.
Oh, St. Paul, okay.
But anytime I get to be around them, it takes me 5 minutes to understand what they're saying with that accent up there.
Yeah, my wife goes back She goes back to Minneapolis every year for a Christmas party with her high school girlfriends. She comes back speaking some other language. I don't know what it is.
But anyway, but no,
Yeah.
Billy, after playing, I went into the ministry for 14 years. At a church in Dover, Delaware for a while. And then so it was like 14 years of that, youth pastor, and then had our own church in Dover for a while. But then I always wanted to get into the coaching. When I was with the Yankees in minor leagues, Cloyd Boyer was the minor league pitching coordinator. He was a great influence in my life. He was a good old Southern Baptist, just a good guy. And he used to call himself the lesser of the Boyer brothers because Cleet, and he was one of the
Yeah.
But I always wanted to do that. And then when Aberdeen opened up, I got the opportunity to start coaching, and I did that all the way up till this year. And now I'm retired and got 9 grandkids and chasing them around the country. So I'm enjoying it.
Well, thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
both.
Thank you.
And thank you, Scott, for marrying my wife and I.
That's right. I was ordained and married them down at Dream Week. They had a double dream that week. Yeah. And they're still married.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that, and maybe I just don't remember very well, but when you both were playing, sports was sports, and that was pretty much it. Today, players are much more involved in charitable causes. They've got their foundations. Now we're getting into a lot of social issues where players are using that platform for social causes. I'm just curious as to what your feelings are on that movement.
Well,
Scott, you go.
yeah, it's inevitable. We didn't have foundations back then because we didn't have enough money to have a foundation.
That's great.
Exactly.
But when they're making the money, just watching the golf the other day, Dustin just picked up 15 million for winning that tournament. I go, holy cow, what do you do with all that? So we weren't in that group, but we were always, one thing about Baltimore, I don't know how it was with the Colts, but I'm sure, when I was playing, if it was a Saturday home game, we were in the community, the whole team, unless I was starting that night, we were off someplace signing autographs, going to the hospital. We've always been involved, and so, with the way the world is today with all the issues and stuff, yeah, our athletes are bigger than ever. They might not be better than ever, but they're bigger than ever, popularity wise.
Yeah, I think you're right, Scott. We didn't make the money. We were in the community, but we didn't have limousines to take us around to the different stops. It was a lot different story. I've kind of came up with a theory on the whole thing is that, and I don't know how it is for baseball players because I'm not a baseball player, but with football, they found that they were entertainment. So they were Hollywood more than they were football. And to me, all of them now are more entertainment than they are, and therefore they get more money because entertainers get paid more than lowly football players or baseball players for that matter. Some of the guys, obviously they're superstars in the leagues and they're making a killing, but they also have a lot more people that they're supporting than we did. We had to support us and or a wife and or a girlfriend or whatever. These guys have posses.
Yeah, we didn't have posses. Wow.
That's just my own theory on it.
Yeah, they have posses until they stop winning.
Yeah. Yeah. Posses cost money.
Yeah.
It's sort of like having a mortgage you can't afford.
Well, thank you. And we've ended just right on time so we can get everybody about their business. And I just want to thank Jim and Scott for their time and also for their help with these commemorative posters that we're launching the sale of this evening, and for delivering these two championship trophies to the city of Baltimore. So we will be back with another virtual interview probably within the next several weeks, and we'll let you know about that. In the meantime, get your posters, come on down and see the exhibit. We are pandemic safe, so it's good to come down get back in touch with your sports heritage again. But thanks so much to everybody. Thanks for all of you for tuning in this evening, and we will catch up with you at the next virtual interview or here at the museum. It's been a pleasure. Again, Scott, Jim, thank you so much for your help with our project and for being such great interviewees this evening. And we'll talk to you the next time. See y'all. Have a great night. Go Orioles, go Ravens.